was almost erased from the Canadian political landscape. The party went from 157 seats to just 2. Voters chose Jean Chrétien as their new leader. Throughout the 1993 election campaign, he made it clear he was not going to follow Mulroney's lead and be close friends with the President of the United States. Yet he enjoyed what some called a chummy relationship with Bill Clinton. He confessed, "When we're alone," said Chrétien, "I call him Bill."
I also want to thank Canada again for what I think is very probably the most cooperative relationship in the world in trade and investment and the work we do in the environment and law enforcement. And I hope that as we look ahead to the new century, that the partnership that we've had, the cooperation we've had, will be a genuine model that other countries will try to follow.
Chrétien told an aide, "He's an old pro when talking about Clinton, and he sees me as an even older pro." But this warm relationship would soon change. Next on Bound by a Border, the Bush-Chrétien years.
Cameras. And yet, the judges don't go by Judy, Joe, or Alex. They don't settle disputes about pit bulls, property lines, or parted lovers. And they don't care about ratings, image, or book deals. These judges have a single concern: your rights, not syndication rights. Jurisprudence, Canada's Supreme Court on television. Courtroom TV that counts. C-SPAN this week, highlights from the American political scene. America enters an historic era as Barack Obama is made president. See the new administration at work as it attempts to take the world's sole superpower into new directions.
Change has come to America.
A weekly chronicle of the Obama age on C-SPAN this week. See it on CPAC.
The President and the Prime Minister don't solve problems, but they set a tone, a direction, which helps officials further down solve problems. The tension really developed between Chrétien and Bush. The chemistry just wasn't there. And with the chemistry not there, that infected the relationship as a whole. It meant that people further down the food chain did not answer phone calls to the extent that they normally would have, were not prepared to sit down and solve problems. And so as a result of that, that created a chill throughout the relationship.
One thing I would say is that the adversarial character of that relationship has often been greatly exaggerated. Did these two people enjoy each other's company? I really don't know. But I think Chrétien understood that he had to have sort of a good working relationship with the Americans. I think what went sour there was that the Americans understood, and certainly the American president understood, that Canada was not going to send troops into Iraq. But the request of the American president was, please don't say that too loudly. Chrétien, for whatever reason, some 12 hours after the invasion was announced, went onto the floor of the House of Commons and made a very impassioned speech as to why Canada was not going to participate. And that, and the way he said it really rankled the Americans. And I think that was sort of a turning point.
Well, it's certainly not surprising that Canadian attitudes towards the United States were negative at that time. This was not isolated to Canada. It was a global phenomenon. If there were public opinion polls done around the world about Bush, and he was almost universally disliked. So Canada is not alone in this situation. But I think Canadians had real concerns about Bush's policies around the war in Iraq, around Guantanamo, treatment of Maher Arar, all kinds of specific human rights and issues related to the United States' role in the world. And Canadians were also concerned about the types of border control policies that were adopted as part of Bush's war on terror. the assumption that terrorists were flowing over the Canada-U.S. border into the United States, which were completely wrong, but resulted in a series of measures being adopted by the United States that really hurt Canadian industry, Canadian trade with the United States, and stop that long-standing kind of smooth flow of travel across the border and our belief in this longest undefended border in the world.
News of the deep freeze between Bush and Chrétien spread across the world. In the United Kingdom, one reporter for The Guardian wrote, "Every country in the world is screwed up about its relationship with the U.S. But in Canada, it is a national obsession, even a neurosis."
I think that the difficulties between Mr. Chrétien and Mr. Bush eroded the confidence that Americans had in Canada as a partner. And I think that's the most critical thing that we need to do, is to restore that sense of partnership, which was there during the King-Roosevelt years. It was there between Kennedy and Pearson. It was there between Mulroney and Reagan. And I think it needs to be there again between Mr. Obama and Mr. Harper.
Then the Paul Martin government opposed George W. Bush's wish for Canada to join him in the missile defense program. And so this further aggravated the relationship.
In the spring of 2004, Maclean's magazine conducted a poll probing what Canadian and Americans really think of each other. They reported, "This new sense of animus is disproportionately centered north of the border." Jonathan Gatehouse wrote, "Things between our countries are apparently getting worse all the time." And the evidence suggests the attitude is almost entirely our own.
We are, always aware of everything that's going on in the United States, and the United States is almost never aware of what's going on in Canada. And that's not unnatural for a large country living next door to a big country. For a small country living next door to a big country. I mean, that's fairly natural. But there are issues on which we want to get their attention. There are issues that have to deal with security. There are issues that have to do with trade. There are issues that have to do with the management of the border. There are issues that have to do with differences in regulations between our two countries. So I think one of the most important things that I would like to see come of Mr. Obama's visit here, I would like to see Mr. Harper and Mr. Obama develop some personal chemistry. I think that should be job one at that particular meeting. Develop the chemistry which will be used in the future to look at certain problems and see how they can be solved.
The global economy has and will continue to dominate the headlines.
It's going to be very important for our leader and the American president to very quickly develop a good working relationship. It doesn't necessarily have to be close, but if it's informed by respect, if it's informed by collegiality, if it's one where both sides feel comfortable picking up the phone, that will be enormously helpful, because I think we're going to be in for a rough ride.
The challenges right now are enormous. I think we have to work with the U.S. administration to pursue policies, while not jointly determined, they have to work together.
There's obviously widespread enthusiasm about the Obama administration in Canada. Not surprisingly, he's charismatic, he's different, he's offering change and renewal.
The traditional Canadian friendship and admiration for the United States can be reset in this period, and likely will be.
What's really quite surprising when you look at 100 years of a relationship is that for the most part it's been a pretty damn good one. Sure, there have been hiccups. Sure, there have been points where we've been on a different course. But when you look at the relationship in total, it's hard not to come to the conclusion that it has been one of cooperation, one that has been seen as mutually beneficial.